Vittorio Gassman, a towering figure in Italian cinema, was a man of boundless talent and charisma. With a voice so rich and flexible, it was said he could make even the most mundane text sound like poetry. Imagine a man who could turn the Yellow Pages into a riveting performance. That was Gassman. His journey began in 1943, when he first graced the stage, quickly mastering classical theatre. By 1949, he had captivated audiences as the enigmatic criminal in Bitter Rice, a role that cemented his persona as the ambiguous gentleman, both alluring and dangerous. But Gassman was more than an actor. He was a writer, a director, and a fearless critic, unafraid to challenge the status quo. His mother, Louisa Ambron, an Italian Jew from Pisa, had discouraged him from becoming a lawyer, steering him instead toward the stage. And what a stage it became. His legacy, a testament to his versatility and passion, lives on through his children, including actor Alessandro Gassman, and the countless lives he touched. Born in 1922 to a Tuscan Jewish mother and a German father, Vittorio Gassman's journey began in the shadow of two cultures. His mother, Louisa Ambron, once whispered a quiet rebellion into his ear. "Don't become a lawyer like your father, choose something dangerous," and so he did. The stage became his altar in 1943, where his towering presence and velvet voice carved a legend. By 1946, cinema beckoned, but it was his 1949 role as the brooding criminal in Bitter Rice that seared his image into the world, a man whose charm was as lethal as his despair. Critics called him the ambiguous gentleman, a creator of exquisite tension. Yet his genius overflowed into every corner of art. Decades later, in the 1990s, a nation watched transfixed as he transformed telephone directories and blood test reports into poetry on a satirical TV show, proof that his voice could alchemize even the mundane into magic. He built a kingdom from words, founding one of Italy's most revered acting schools, nurturing generations with the same fire that once scorched the silver screen. But Gassman was no mere artist, he was a provocateur. His sharp tongue cut through polite pretenses, earning him admirers and enemies alike. Love him or loathe him, his children inherited his brilliance. Alessandro, Paola, Vittoria, and Jacopo, each carrying forward the flame of a man who once stood alone on a stage, rewriting destiny. The 1950s and 1960s marked the golden age of Italian cinema, and Vittorio Gassman stood at its radiant center. With a voice that could turn a shopping list into a soliloquy, and a gaze that balanced menace and charm, he became the face of a new cinematic era. In 1949, his searing portrayal of the manipulative drifter Walter in Bitter Rice etched his name into celluloid history, a role that blended danger and allure so seamlessly it defined his archetype, the ambiguous gentleman, both tormentor and seducer. But Gassman was no prisoner to typecasting. He danced through genres with a chameleon's grace, from the frenetic slapstick of Adua and Her Friends, 1960, to the existential despair of The Greedy Woman of Tunis, 1962. Directors like Luchino Visconti and Federico Fellini clamored to harness his volcanic energy, while his 1964 partnership with French actress Juliette Manille sparked both artistic and personal fireworks, yielding a son, Alessandro, who would follow his father's theatrical footsteps. Gassman's collaborations extended beyond the screen. In 1970s Rome, he founded an acting school that became a crucible for Italy's next generation, a place where his legendary intensity was distilled into mentorship. Even in his later years, his voice alone remained a national treasure. A 1995 TV segment, Gassman Luggy, turned grocery lists and tax forms into high art, proving that his magic needed no script. Yet behind the velvet voice and polished veneer lay a man unafraid to provoke. He skewered Italy's artistic elite with biting critiques, earning both admiration and enmity. Married briefly to Shelley Winters, whose memoir recalled their early linguistic stumbles, He embodied a worldliness that transcended borders. By the time he passed in 2000, Gassman had become more than an actor. He was a lexicon of Italian culture, his legacy echoing in the voices of his children Paola and Alessandro, and the countless performers he shaped. To know his work was to witness a masterclass in humanity's contradictions, a man who made the mundane immortal. Vittorio Gassman's life was a tapestry woven with threads of cultural duality and artistic fervor. Born to a Tuscan Jewish mother, Luisa Ambron, and a German father, Heinrich Gassman, he inherited a world of contrasts, a heritage that whispered both resilience and wanderlust. His mother's quiet rebellion against tradition steered him away from a legal career, urging him toward the stage, where his voice could breathe life into even the driest text. By the mid-1990s, this gift became legend through Gassman Lig, a television segment where he transformed mundane documents, a blood test, a phone bill, into riveting monologues, proving that his artistry needed no poetic muse. His personal life mirrored the complexity of his roles. With Juliette Maynil, his partner from 1964 to 1968, he shared a love that bore their son, Alessandro, a bond that echoed through generations as Alessandro and his siblings Paola, Vittorio, and Jacopo each carved their own paths in art and science. His marriage to Shelley Winters, though strained by a comical language barrier in its early years, became a chapter in his story of cross-cultural connection. Yet Gassman's truest legacy lived in his family's footsteps and the actors he nurtured at his revered acting school, where he instilled discipline and passion. Even in struggle, whether navigating his multicultural identity or the sharp critiques he leveled at Italy's artistic elite, he remained a force, his voice an eternal compass guiding others through the chaos of creation. As the decades turned, the man once synonymous with Italian cinema's golden age began to slip from the spotlight. His absence felt like a fading aria in the Roman twilight. Though his voice remained a national treasure, by the mid-1990s, Gassman found himself mesmerizing audiences not with grand roles, but through the peculiar magic of Gassman Lega, the television segment where he recited telephone directories and blood test results with Shakespearean gravitas. The performance, both absurd and sublime, became a quiet rebellion against a fading relevance, proving his ability to alchemize the mundane into art. Yet his sharp tongue and unfiltered critiques of Italy's cultural elite, delivered in those same years, carved enemies among the very institutions that once celebrated him. Some say his mother's early insistence that he abandon law for the stage haunted him, a choice that bound him to the theater's embrace but left him restless. In his final act, he retreated to the sanctuary of his acting school, shaping young voices rather than his own legacy. Health, once unassailable, waned as the millennium approached, his body slowing while his spirit remained untamed. When he passed in 2000, the void left behind was filled not with silence, but with echoes of a voice that could turn even a classified ad into poetry. In the pantheon of Italian cinema, few voices echo as hauntingly as Vittorio Gassman's, a timbre that could turn even the yellow pages into poetry. His legacy, like the man himself, defies simplicity. Born in 1922 to a Tuscan Jewish mother and German father, Gassman carried a duality that seeped into every performance, a tension between charm and menace, elegance and danger. It was this complexity that etched his name into the celluloid of classics like Bitter Rice, 1949, where his portrayal of a criminal with a poet's soul redefined post-war cinema's anti-heroes. But his genius transcended the screen. In the mid-90s, a satirical TV show gifted us Gassman Legge, a 2-minute ritual where he transformed banal texts like blood test results or classified ads into gripping monologues. It was not parody but a masterclass, proof that his voice alone could bend reality. Off-screen, he was no less formidable. He challenged Italy's cultural elite with unflinching critiques, earning both admiration and enmity. Yet his greatest rebellion was personal, choosing art over law, as his mother once urged, a decision that birthed a dynasty. His children, Alessandro, Paola, and Vittorio, inherited his passion, ensuring his spirit lingers in theaters and clinics alike. Behind the velvet curtain of his career, he nurtured generations at his acting school, where method met madness. And though time dimmed his spotlight, Gassman's shadow stretches on, a reminder that true artistry never fades. It merely waits for the next curtain to rise. In the twilight of his life, Vittorio Gassman remained a force of magnetic intensity, his voice still capable of transforming the mundane into the sublime. By the mid-1990s, he captivated Italy once more through Gassman Legge, a satirical TV segment where his dramatic readings of telephone bills and classified ads became poetry. It was a testament to his genius, a man who could make even silence speak. Yet his final years were marked by solitude, a fading from the spotlight he once dominated. On June 29, 2000, Rome lost its Shakespearean muse as Gassman passed away at 77. His legacy etched in the echoes of every stage and screen he graced. Born to a Tuscan Jewish mother who steered him from law to acting, he embraced the theater as his true courtroom, where every role was a verdict on the human soul. Friends recalled his sharp wit, his unflinching critiques of artistic compromise, traits that earned both reverence and rivals. His family, including his son Alessandro and daughter Paola, stood as living testaments to his enduring influence. As dusk settled over the Tiber that day, the city he loved fell silent, mourning an artist who had given it a voice. In the end, Gassman's greatest performance was life itself, played with passion, complexity, and an unforgettable crescendo. In the golden haze of memory, Vittorio Gassman's voice still lingers, a symphony of shadows and light. Born in Genova in 1922, to a Tuscan Jewish mother and a German father, he was a man of contradictions, shaped by worlds that clashed and converged. His mother, Luisa, once steered him from law to the stage, a choice that gifted the world a titan of theater and film. By 1943, he commanded the boards with a presence both haunting and electric, and by 1949, as the tormented criminal in Bitter Rice, he etched himself into cinema's soul. Yet it was his voice, oh that voice, that turned even the mundane into art. In the mid-90s, Italy chuckled and wept as he recited telephone bills and blood tests on Gassman Legge, proving pros could dance on a syllable. Off stage, he loved fiercely, fathering 4 children including actors Alessandro and Paola, and clashing openly with the guarded gates of artistic pretension. His partnerships, like the tempestuous one with Juliette Manille, and his founding of a revered acting school, revealed a man who lived for passion and craft. When he passed in 2000, the curtains fell on an era, but his echo remains in every raised eyebrow, every trembling inflection, and every heart he stole with a whisper. Vittorio Gassman, the page never closes,